Hello, citizens. How are you today? Well, continuing our discussion on ancient Egypt with Professor Bob Breyer, we talked about Akhenaten. I can't pronounce his name right. I feel like I'm not pronouncing it right. So I think I'll just say Queen Nefertiti and her husband. So, Queen Nefertiti's husband, the current pharaoh, has been labeled a Looney Tune for all intents and purposes. He done lost his damn mind. He didn't change the local religion. He didn't move to the suburbs. Only problem is the suburbs ain't even been built yet. So he leaves the city, goes to the suburbs, has to build up the suburbs, and that's where he chills, him and his family and his followers. But he's got a disconnect with reality. I mean, I'm all for spirituality, and I understand, many preachers will tell, many pastors, many religious leaders will tell you it's not a physical warfare, it's a spiritual warfare. Be in the world and not of the world. Okay, I get that. I understand that. But there are certain things that has to happen while you're alive. Like paying the bills, taking care of the military, making sure you don't get invaded. Clearly, God put us on this earth for a reason. So, why ignore that fact? Even if it is spiritual warfare, why ignore the fact that God didn't make us a ball of energy just floating around? He created us and made us human for a reason. Why, I don't know, but if it's so glorious to be up there instead of going through life and then going up there, then everybody should just start trying to commit suicide. But that's not the case. Not to mention, suicide is looked down upon because it's considered a slap in the face of God. He gave you this gift, and you just gonna say, I don't need it. It's too hard to maintain. Just kill me now. Matter of fact, I'll do it myself. No, not at all. None of that. Yes, life is hard, but you still have to live it. Um, so Queen Nefertiti's husband, the quack, the quack pharaoh, he builds a new community outside of the city limits. He dies, and everything's kind of up in the air from there. What do the people do after that? Do they go back to the city and worship the old gods, or do they continue on worshiping the one God, the Aten? Well, we don't know exactly what happened, but I'm pretty sure Professor Breyer will inform us on his thoughts based on his research. However, what I can tell you is that the belief in one God is still prevalent today. People have fought over the idea that their God is the one and true God. Okay, news flash. Come on, come on. Everybody gather around. Christians, Muslims, all you people, come on. Now, there is one God of the universe. God created mommies and daddies. Now, check this out. And this is some real talk. Listen carefully. Get the wax out of your ears and pay attention. No attitudes, no getting angry. Pay attention. When a woman is born, she's given an earthly name. As she gets older, she still has that one name. But depending on the range of her power and authority, she is given different titles. Those titles are not who she is, they represent what she can do. If she raises children, she becomes a mother figure. If she has siblings, she becomes a sister. If her siblings have children and she's involved in those children's lives, she becomes an auntie. So when people call her auntie so and so, she's still the same person she was when she was born, but she has a certain authoritative power over those children. And that title that she's been given, auntie, represents that. If she has her own children, they call her mom, mother, mommy, mama, because she's been given an authoritative title over them. And if she's in politics and she's the mother of a country, they'll probably call her Madam President. I hope you guys are understanding what I'm saying. There's only one God. He has multiple titles, and every country on earth has a different name for God based on their language. So, this idiotic reasoning that one name is different from another and that's not God's true name, even the Bible says, I am who I am. I am what I am. Meaning, to the best of my understanding, God didn't have a name. We as human beings gave God a name. He's the all powerful creator of all the universe. What do you need a name for? Names are human constructs. We created names. Don't believe me? Remember, the Holy Bible says that God set Adam down in the middle of the paradise, and he brought the animals to him, and he let Adam name the animals of the earth. God didn't name the animals and say, Adam, this is a whale, this is a horse, this is a... No. He had Adam give everything a name. And some people might criticize me because, oh, well, you already admitted that you don't read the Bible all the time, so how can you say this? Exactly my point. That's exactly my point. Sometimes, in order to see the truth, you need somebody on the outside looking in. I'm not deep into the Bible like some of these so-called pastors and religious leaders that have led us wrong for over 300 years because they were scared of the slave master, because they were scared to succeed. So now I have to try to unlearn everything I've learned and filter through what's true and what's not true. It's hard work, but I feel like I'm making progress. Anyway, guys, the Aten. The Aten is an ancient Egyptian name for God. That's the way I see it. That's just the way I see it. Yahweh. What's the one name the Jews made came up with for what was it? It was something tied into Superman. Because he's him and his father Jarrell and Jalel and Jarrell. I was reading something magazine a couple of years back, and it was saying that one of the I can't remember which name it was, if it was the father or the son's name, but one of them is basically God. It, man, I really do feel like people got it twisted. God is not a person. God is the life force of all things in the universe. God can be a man, God can be a woman, God can be whatever he or she wants to be. And I'm not saying that to be disrespectful to everybody who believes God is a man, but to say that God is a man gives God a sexuality. God gave us creativity. We created sexuality. Remember, Adam named everything on earth, including woman, from the womb of man. Woman. Women will always be a part of a man. A part, not the exact same thing. You are a part of a man, designed that way by God, named by man. That's just the way it is. Nothing to be ashamed of. If God wanted it the other way around, he would have created woman first, and then a man would have came along afterwards. Just like women seem to have a problem with men talking about labor pains. Oh, they can't stand when you go there. What you know about labor pains? I was in labor for 5 hours. That crap hurts. You don't know what you're talking about. Y'all some ungrateful. Okay, maybe they are ungrateful. But at the same time, you can't get in your feelings and blame men for your labor pains, especially if you're religious, especially if you're into the Bible, because I'm pretty sure the Bible in Genesis talks about how mankind was punished for their misdeeds in the Garden of Eden. All men have to suffer. Our punishment is we forever got to get our grind on. If we want something in life, we have to work. We have to work hard. We have to get out in these streets and get our grind on. If we got to work 2 or 3 jobs, we got to hustle. We got to come up with some type of way, as it were, working, laboring in the field in order to get to that next step. Now, with women, you guys, I don't know why I did that. With women, you guys have to labor during childbirth. I may have mentioned this before, but not everybody is going to watch the same video, so I'm going to repeat myself throughout the series, throughout the channel. Certain talking points I'm going to repeat so that everybody can hear me. And as I said, men have to labor in the fields, which in modern time would mean getting your hustle on, getting your grind on, working 2 or 3 jobs if you have to. We have to physically work hard to get what we want. Women, by decree of God, the Almighty Creator, you have to labor during childbirth. Some of you have easy labor pains. Not well, I won't say easy labor pains, but some of you have it easier than others. Some of you have it very hard, excruciating pains. But that pain varies from woman to woman, and that pain was not given to you by man. That pain was a reminder of the bull crap that you did to piss God off. Plain and simple. So while you blaming a man for everything, and then you want to throw up in his face how long you was in labor, how long you were in labor, you need to realize that it wasn't our fault. We got punished, you all got punished. That was God's punishment for women for pissing him off. So once you all get right with God, then maybe your labor pains won't be as bad. A lot of women don't have hard labor pains. Some do. I don't know the percentage. I'm not a female doctor. I'm not I'm not a doctor, period. That being said, what I do know for certain is that God punished all people for things that he felt were disrespectful to him. He punished men for being gay. He punished men for blindly following a woman. He punished women for lying and deceiving. Because that's what it was. God gave man he gave him a clear path to follow. You do this, this, and this, and I'll take care of you. Woman come along. He said, all right, man, teach these things, these instructions that I've given you, teach this to the woman. So he taught it to the woman, and the woman got to talking to somebody else, and she like, really? So you mean to tell me my boo been lying to me all this time? Let me bite that apple. Give me that apple. Then her eyes were open. Then she goes back to her boy, goes back to her boo, and she's like, yo, you should eat this apple. Why? Didn't God tell us not to eat the apple? But you should eat the apple. It tastes good. It'll open your mind. Boy, stop tripping. Nah, I don't think so. I don't think God would like us to do that. Please, do it for me. Okay. So they bite the apple. And what happens? They probably wake up the next day, get that morning stretch. Why you look like that? What you mean why I look like that? Eve, stop tripping. Why is you looking like that? What's up with all this and that down there? You need to put some clothes on. Wait, you got that little stick thing hanging right there? Maybe you need to put some clothes on. But see, the whole time, God ain't told them nothing about clothes. So when they meet up with God, it's like, uh, I was looking for y'all. Where y'all been? Oh, we was naked, so we put some put some pants, some underwear on, some clothes. We was trying to find something to wear. What you mean? You was trying to find something to wear. And then, after talking to them thoroughly, he decided enough is enough. He punished the serpent, he punished Eve, and he punished man. It's like it's like old school mamas. When you got 3 or 4 kids plus the the cousins over for the summer, and somebody break the dish or somebody eat up all the cookies and don't nobody want to tell. Okay, all right, fine then. All of y'all in trouble because somebody knows what happened, and because y'all have this code that y'all not gonna rat each other out. Mama go punish every last one of y'all, including the one that didn't do it. You just as guilty as the person who did. So religion needs a tune up, in my opinion. That being said, let's get back to our story.
Egyptologists would agree that King Tut, Tutankhamun, is the son of Akhenaten. But Tutankhamun, while he's the most famous pharaoh probably in history, really very little's known about him. What I'd like to do today is talk about why he's so well known, which is the discovery of his virtually intact tomb. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how does an archaeologist go about discovering a tomb. And what I want to emphasize is that it's not like the movies, oh look, we found the tomb. It's not like that. It's a matter of knowing where to look. It's a matter of library research. It's a matter of perseverance. It takes a lot of skill. And that's how Tutankhamun's tomb was discovered. Now, first let me tell you a little bit about the history of the Valley of the Kings. You already know something about it. You know that our 18th dynasty that we're still talking about is the dynasty that began burials in the Valley of the Kings, right? With Tutmosis I, continued right down the line, and Tutankhamun was discovered in the Valley of the Kings. The Valley of the Kings was sort of always known as the Valley of the Kings, though it never became lost to history in a sense. We have a historian, Diodorus, 1st century BC, wrote a history, and he visited the Valley of the Kings and describes it. And he says that the priests told him, there were still Egyptian priests in the 1st century BC, they told him there were 47 tombs. They told him that there were 47 tombs in the Valley of the Kings. But he said, but I could only see 15. Right? So there was some missing, is at least what he was told by these priests. Then we have other later accounts. Richard Pocock, a sea captain who sailed up and down the Nile, described the Valley of the Kings, and he said in 1739, when he was there, you could go into 9 of those tombs. They were, in other words, open, and you could walk in. Now, so some of the tombs had been open throughout antiquity, robbed very early, but throughout antiquity they were open. I'll tell you how you know. When you walk into some of the tombs, you can see very old Greek graffiti, written by Greek tourists, ancient Greek tourists, who came to see the tombs of Egypt. Some of the graffiti is kind of funny. Like one guy says, I was here and wasn't impressed. Right? But at least we know that the Valley of the Kings was open throughout antiquity. Now, the next important visitors to the valley was Napoleon Bonaparte's scientists, the savants he brought with them in 1798 to 1799, almost exactly 200 years ago. They were there. And his savants even discovered a tomb. They discovered the tomb of Amenhotep III, right, who was probably the grandfather of Tutankhamun in the Western Valley. They made the first map of the valley. They had surveyors with them. So it's really the first accurate map of the Valley of the Kings. And they said there were 16 tombs visible in their time, and 11 were open. You could go into 11 of them. So we have a history of the valley. We know what some people say. Closer to our modern times, the big explorer of the Valley of the Kings was an Italian, Giovanni Belzoni. A great character. Wonderful character. He was a circus strongman, literally. Worked in a circus. He was 6'6", used to do things like have a platform around his shoulders, and he'd have 8 guys stand on it, and he'd walk around with 8 guys supporting 8 guys. He was a circus strongman, but also an engineer. He had a degree in engineering, who went to Egypt to do engineering, to try to sell a better water pump, actually. It didn't work out, so he decided to treasure hunt. And he made a career of treasure hunting. He was there about 1815 to 1820, roughly 1819. Now, he in a sense was the first systematic searcher. He knew the Valley of the Kings was going to be where the treasure was, so he really wanted to look. Now, he was an engineer, had an eye for mechanics, and he used certain clues that other people hadn't. For example, as you all know by now, the tombs in the Valley of the Kings are chiseled out of the mountain, sort of like caves. Well, if you're going to chisel out a tomb, you're going to have a lot of rubble, limestone chips. And where are you going to put them? The workmen don't want to carry them far away, so they dump them outside the tomb. So Belzoni figured, look for big piles of chips, and there's going to be a tomb. And it worked. He discovered the tomb of the Pharaoh Seti I, a later pharaoh. We'll talk about him later. And intact, no, but it had a sarcophagus in it and beautiful paintings. Belzoni brought the sarcophagus back to England, and he had a big exhibit at Egyptian Hall. There's a hall called Egyptian Hall, and he had plaster of Paris models of the tomb paintings made, and people could go into this sort of mock tomb of Seti I. It was really pretty, it was a rage. And if you want to see the sarcophagus that he brought back to England, it's in England today in a museum called John Soane's Museum. It's in Lincoln's Fields Inn in London, and you can see the sarcophagus. It was sold to John Soane. So you can still see the Seti, the first sarcophagus that Belzoni brought back. And you should see it. It's a neat thing. But anyway, Belzoni didn't find a really intact tomb. Nobody did until Tutankhamun. Next big discovery. Now, remember, Tutankhamun is a mystery man at this point. Very few people know about him. Who is he? In 1881, and I'm going to talk in detail about this discovery, at Deir el-Bahari, remember the place of the northern convent, the northern monastery, where Hatshepsut built her tomb? At Deir el-Bahari, they found a dozen royal mummies, actually more than a dozen. Royal mummies all put together for safekeeping. The important thing is, Tutankhamun wasn't there. Still missing in action. And remember I said when we talked about the tomb of Amenhotep II that they found some mummies in his tomb, royal mummies, kings? Tutankhamun was still missing. So, at the turn of our century, hardly anybody knew about Tutankhamun. Not even his name. If you would ask Cleopatra, for example, who ruled 1,000 years after Tutankhamun, about Tutankhamun, she never would have heard of him. He was a lost pharaoh. So, at the turn of our century, nobody knew anything about Tutankhamun. Nobody was really looking for him. But now, the hunt will start. There's a large cast of characters involved in the hunt for Tutankhamun. The first one is my man Flinders Petrie, the one who figured out that pots with handles come later than pots without handles, the one who was willing to walk 20 miles to pay his workmen. Great guy, Flinders Petrie. And he was excavating at Tel el Amarna, Achet Aten, the city of the horizon. Remember the city in the desert that Akhenaten built? He was excavating there. And he found some objects with the name, with Tutankhamun's name on it. Right? He found some objects. This is the first suggestion of this early king. Like, who was he? Didn't know. But at least we're getting an idea that he existed. Now, later comes Howard Carter, the discoverer of the tomb. And his career as an archaeologist is almost a fluke. Almost a fluke. He got the job, so to speak, because he was uneducated. Howard Carter came from a long line of artists. He had nearly a dozen brothers who were artists. His father was an artist who made his living by doing portraits of pets for the wealthy. One of his clients was Lady Amherst of Hackney. Now, Lady Amherst also was interested in Egyptology. And at her house, Didlington Hall, they had a large collection of Egyptian antiquities. And she was involved in Egyptology early on, 1880s. When Howard Carter's father went to her place to do the paintings, often little Howard came along, and he saw the Egyptian antiquities. He was an artist, but he was a frail child. He never really went to school. He was educated at home. When he was about 18 years old, he would draw animals also, and he was quite good. I mean, a really competent artist. When he was a teenager, late teens, Lady Amherst was asked by an excavator in Egypt, "Can you send me an artist? Preferably one who is not a gentleman. He will make less requests." The idea, if you don't send one of these wealthy lords who's an artist, who's going to ask for wine and things on the excavation, send me somebody who's a little grubby, but is a good artist. That was Howard Carter. She said, "I've got the guy for you," because he was relatively uneducated, lower-class guy, sent him out to Egypt, and he started as an artist. He worked with Flinders Petrie. That's where he got his training, working with Petrie. He worked at Amarna. And we even have Petrie's notes about Howard Carter, the early impressions of this 18-year-old kid. Petrie said, "I couldn't really trust him, so I put him to work on this area. I didn't know what he could do." Later, Carter went to Beni Hassan in Middle Egypt and trained with Percy Newberry, another good excavator. So Carter was an artist, but learning excavation techniques. He was bright. Now, Carter, self-taught, right? Never had a course in archaeology. None of these guys did. Became the inspector of antiquities for the Thebes area, right? At the age of 26. And he did good work. He did things like installing gates in the tombs in the Valley of the Kings so they couldn't be vandalized. He helped bring in electric lights into the Valley of the Kings, which was pretty hot stuff. And there's a wonderful story. In 1901, one of the tombs was robbed, the tomb of Amenhotep II, the one that had the extra mummies in it. And Carter caught the thieves by looking at their footprints. They were barefoot, the thieves. They had broken a lock, and he tracked the guys to their house and found out who the thieves were and caught the thieves, right? Carter was really quite industrious. So Carter is going to be one of the big players. He's going to be the discoverer of Tutankhamun's tomb. But so far, he starts off as an artist, works his way up, learns archaeology, and then becomes inspector of the Valley of the Kings. Enter the next major player in our drama, Theodore Davis, a wealthy American from Rhode Island, has more money than archaeological